I will give you a few aspects from the viewpoint of a neuroscientist, but I think that we are going to have several overlaps. The first question, because I will put that into questions, the first question is, what is the possible impact of a model or of a process, of a disease, on individual communities and the society? We may have possible unintended consequences on social stigma and self-stigma, and I think that Ibo just spoke about that. We may have possible social or cultural biases in research design or interpretation of our results. I will just give you one example of such things, which was already evoked by Nicholas, which is the possibility already learned from the genetic, the ethics of genetic, of early or even pre-symptomatic diagnosis for Alzheimer's disease. What does mean the absence of an early diagnosis? Because you know that people is going to enter dementia, so if you want to respect the autonomy of the person, you need to give the person the possibility as long as possible of this kind of autonomy. Does the absence of a curative treatment cancel any early intervention? Clearly, the answer is no, because we know that if you raise the level of intellectual activity, if you raise sports, if you prevent comorbidities, you are going to delay the enter in the disease. Is it possible to implement a management without diagnosis or without revealing the diagnosis to the patient and his family? Is it possible to do early cares without discrimination of the affected person in relation to the social vision of dementia? This calls a lot of questions and a lot of attention, including philosophy. If you take the basic John Locke utilitarian vision, what we are today can predict what we will be tomorrow. Is it possible with such kind of disease? The second question is what are the ethical standards of biological material or data collection, and how do local standards compare to other global collaborators? Because I think that with 19 institutes you are going to exchange some material data collections. So how are we going to protect the privacy? This is obviously something important for brain data. How are we going to manage tissues and the information of the donors? A third point is about the moral significance, in my case of neural systems, but as Nicholas already presented brain organoids, this calls to a lot of questions. What are the meanings of these engineered neural circuits? And I should call a lot of attention on naming them mini brains, because they are not. They are just engineered circuits, even if they have some activity, even if they have the neural diversity that we may encounter in our brains. They are not brain at all, and the architecture that you presented is very far from any kind you can meet with a real brain. Are ethical standards for research adequate and appropriate for evolving technologies and brain model? And at what step could we say that it's such an interesting model that we couldn't give some moral rights to such model? I have some of my colleagues that call their organoids that are attached emotionally to the organoid in such a way that they are speaking of euthanasia when they stop the experiment. A fourth question is, how could interventions, in our case brain intervention, impact or reduce autonomy? We need to identify measures that prevent or protect the autonomy of the persons that are involved in our research. And we have to take responsibility for the unintended, once again, effect, especially in legal, economic, and social contexts. And finally, we need to identify what kind of applications could be derived from this research and what kind of use and misuse of our results can appear. Because, as said, technology, but science also is not neutral. And we can anticipate what kind of use for the best, for health, but also what kind of misuse. Obviously, we are speaking already about enhancement and some derived. So we have some ethical frameworks that we can use generally for any kind of new technology. I take, for example, what the Neufil Council proposed in 2013 for neurotechnologies, based on two fundamental principles. One is the beneficence, developing interventions and technology to address suffering brain disorders, including mental disorders. I'm sorry, but they are basically brain disorders, even if they are not only brain disorder, but autism is clearly a defect in neurodevelopment before being a problem of interaction with other within the family or within the society. We need, as a second principle, caution because of the uncertainties and possible effect, particularly for our brain, but we are ignorant, and I think that we are developing this research because we know we are ignorant. We don't know how much we are ignorant, but we know we are ignorant. We need to protect key interests, the interest of individuals, safety, protection against risk, impact on privacy, promotion of autonomy. We need also to take care of public interest, equity of access, promoting trust in technologies. And finally, like you, Ivo, I will close on virtues, but in my view, 3 virtues could be enough. Humility seems to be a basic virtue that all of us, because once again, we are highly ignorant. But we need also inventiveness, which could be also a discussion with artists. And we need more than even responsibility. And on this, I will suggest a few basic guidelines. Obviously, at the top of anything, before any kind of discussion, we need good science. Good science need also to make a framework about integrity, reproducibility, things like that. And I think that in many cases, for example, in the case of organoids, we need to standardize some elements to have something reproducible from one lab to another. Safety is a paramount important. We have to anticipate the impact of individuals, capacity, autonomy, agency, protect privacy and confidentiality, think about malignant uses of tools and technologies, have caution about the non-medical use of what we are going to raise, take care immediately about the specific concerns of the public, encourage public education and dialogue, and finally behave justly, share the benefits of science, research, and resulting technologies. Thank you.